team member who has an obligation not to dox and harass students.
You found someone involved in these protests who is worthy of discipline. I'm amazed by it.
But he's such a.
I think we're going to be talking about this.
What a condescending.
From the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression coming up next.
Robbie, answer this question. Do you think the National Guard should be sent in to round up these students per Tom Cotton and a number of conservatives? I'm so glad that you have found somebody you're willing to condemn in the context of
I have no problem.
All right, more rising coming up after this.
She's done for the day. For everybody. Anyway, DIY Guard, this is Leftist Program. Only 189 of you watching. You can't expect any better than this. Hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see the audio quality improve. But yeah, Gavin, do you want to go ahead and plow into this rising debate?
Yeah, so this is a pretty interesting debate, another spicy confrontation between Briahna Joy Gray and Robby Soave over on the Hills Rising. And this time they're debating the college campuses. Of course, we talked a lot about that yesterday, the mass arrests, the allegations of violence and anti-Semitism coming from the peaceful protesters, most of which are students of these universities trying to, protest their universities linked to Israel and get them to divest. So let's take a look here. I thought this was pretty interesting. And once again, Robby really failing to live up to his, libertarian bona fides. You'd think that libertarian would be a little bit more upset about the way that these protesters are being treated. But let's take a look because this gets pretty spicy. Briahna totally shuts his ass down. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one.
Facilitating the bombing campaigns in Gaza, bombing campaigns which our own government has said it does not endorse. Remember when Rafah was a red line? Remember when bombing Iran was a red line? These universities are directly implicated in this. And the students and the professors who have come out in their defense, forming a human shield, holding hands around students in prayer to protect them from the police force at NYU. It's a really stunning display of solidarity among all of the groups who are not financially implicated by these kinds of corporatized arrangements.
And they're forming human chains to prevent Jewish students from moving among their midst.
That's not true. They
absolutely did that.
Robbie, at NYU, I'm describing a specific incident in which university professors came out and created a circle around students in prayer. A Passover prayer as they were being attacked by the NYPD, handcuffed and arrested. That's what happened in the United States of America. And I thought that we cared about free speech sitting here on this program. I thought we cared about your rights to protest and articulate your values.
I care about
and college students are being called now for the National Guard.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the actual, evidence behind what Robby's talking about. She's talking about these, links of human chains. Essentially, there were professors doing this to protect the students who were protesting. But then Robby chimes in to mention, oh no, they were doing it to, keep Jewish students from moving in their midst. Let's take a look at one of the videos that I'm guessing Robby is referencing. This one's been going around, and I wanted to play it just so that we're, being fair and referencing what he's talking about. So let's take a look here.
Attention, everyone. Can I get everyone to form a human chain right here, please? We have Zionists that have entered. My check! Repeat after me. We have Zionists. Who have entered the camp. We are going to create a human chain. Where I am standing. So that they do not pass this point. And infringe upon our privacy. And try to disrupt our community.
So, in case it's not clear, yeah, they're not blocking Jews from moving around the campus. In fact, a lot of the protesters are Jewish. They're Jewish students that are outraged by what the country of Israel, the government of Israel and America is currently facilitating. There's this one video where they're seemingly trying to stop Zionist counter-protesters from disrupting their community and infringing on their privacy, but it's never even stated if the Zionists are Jewish. You can be a Zionist Christian, you can be a Zionist atheist, you don't have to be a Jew.
To say that.
What was that?
Joe Biden loves to remind us of that.
Exactly. It could have been Joe Biden. that they were blocking.
Also,
But
I gotta
yeah,
side with Autumn Leaves on this one. That's too long of a chant.
yeah, it is. It's kind of cringe, but whatever.
What are we doing? We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Why are we doing that? Because we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and this, and this, and this, and then we're gonna do this. I'm like, bro, take the microphone from that guy. He's hurting the cause, or they're hurting the cause. I don't know who this is. We need somebody
that's
concise.
true.
Move your ass, link your arms. Move your ass, link your arms. Let's fucking go. Okay, that's how people want to be talked to if you're chanting.
Yep. Anyway, I think most people would agree that this is not some, evidence of violent anti-Semitism occurring. They're trying to keep a counter protester out of their encampment because they know that person's there to disrupt what they're trying to do. No one's saying keep all the Jews out. Like I said, a lot of these protesters are Jewish themselves. So I think Robby's characterization of that, and a lot of people's characterization of that, is just frankly dishonest, trying to spin this as something that it simply is not. But I wanted to play the video just so you guys were aware.
Yeah, it's indefensible, right? The fact that they're going to respond to students who are protesting an ethnic cleansing, just a violent extermination campaign, and then to try and frame them as anti-Semites with absolutely no evidence. The video of the eye stabbing, right, that they were all blowing out of proportion, like the woman was stabbed in the eye with a Palestinian flag. If you watch that video, it's like you'd have to be. It's like a cop trying to like make the case that the water jug that he got hit with was a assault with a deadly weapon. Like, this is even less than that. It's like they get like mildly bumped by the flag, and it's on video, and they're like, I was stabbed in the eye, and everybody is like, dude, you were not stabbed with the eye, and this video makes you look horrible. This video makes you look like you lied about getting stabbed in the eye because you got accidentally bonked in a crowd of a fuckload of people. That happens. That's like, you accidentally bump by somebody and they're like, hey, pushed me. It's like, whoa, dude, there's like a million people down here. I'm just trying to get by you, dude. Anyway, they took the video down because it was so, it basically shredded the entire case that they'd all ran with. But we constantly see this. It's like, oh, they weren't letting Jewish people in there. Of course they were letting Jewish people in there. As Gavin pointed out, like probably half those kids are fucking Jewish. So that let's not dispense with that nonsense, right? Or, oh, there were mass rapes and women's genitalia was getting mutilated in broad daylight. And it's like, actually, we find out that the IDF was mowing those people down from a helicopter. So, I'm just not going to take them at their fucking word. Also, I made this little guy for everybody to see before we get back to Robby. This is it. I couldn't think of a better embodiment for the guy than this little meme format right here. Nothing I could say would do it justice, but he's got to choose between, as a libertarian, he's a private property. That's a tough one. But then the freedom to assemble, that's another libertarian hardliner. They like to be able to assemble and, make a stink. That's anyway, he's caught between a rock and a hard place, Robby.
Yeah, that's completely accurate. Let's keep watching.
Do you know who was killed at Kent State by the National Guard? 3 of the 4 of those students were Jewish students. So who here is really standing up for and protecting the rights and interests of Jewish students as you call for them to be rounded up by the police?
I'm not calling for them to be rounded up by the police.
Well,
I don't think the police should be involved.
That you criticize this behavior because the administration of NYU, the administration of NYU called those police in. Yeah. And the professors wrote that statement to say, this was not a violent protest. This was not an anti-Semitic protest. This was students protesting actual violence
I don't know
in
that
Palestine.
It's not violent or not anti-Semitic, but I don't think the police should be called in to deal with it. I think this is an academic matter. If students don't show up to their classes or to their exams,
it was at
then it
night.
can be dealt with that way.
They made all
I mean, at Columbia, they're planning.
At Columbia, they made all classes online until the end of the semester. So these kids have nowhere to be except anywhere with the internet, which happens to be all of New York City.
To occupy the campus until the right to return is regranted
the students,
to Palestinians displaced from Gaza.
The students are not the ones that.
Can we pause it again? I'm sorry. Robby has no empathy. This man has no capability to at all relate to or sympathize with or care about one of the most devastating, unfucking imaginable horrors that we've ever lived through. And we've lived through a decent amount in the last 26 years of my life. Okay. The fact that he can just so cavalierly and brazenly be like, oh, what? So we're just gonna occupy this until they stop the mass suffering and let these people return to their homes, which were rightfully theirs. Like, fucking maybe a guy, what's your problem with that? What's your problem with justice? What's your problem with having conviction? What's your problem with standing up for what the fuck you believe in? You know what I'm saying, man? It's just, oops, I made Gavin's screen too big, sorry. But you know what I'm saying? It's just, it's fucking crazy. I don't know. We'll put the screen back on in a second when Gavin gets here, but I don't know where the fuck he went. Long story short, we've got more libertarian cope. They like to say that they're pro-freedom. You see people who are exercising their most fundamental freedoms as Americans, their right to protest, their right to assemble, their right to take a stand, their right to speak out against atrocities. And somehow this flag waving, oh, I love America, I'm a libertarian, liberty. That's where they get the name. Libertarian. It's such abject cope. It's fucking it's ridiculous. But anyway, oops, we can go ahead and play more of that.
Administration is doing that, and some people think
No,
it's as a cudgel to try to make it seem as though the students are actually disrupting the functioning of the university in a way that they frankly are not.
They clearly are, though. There's going to be no in-person classes, compromising the educational processes at the university, and then they're going to complain later that they can't get jobs and we have to pay for their student loans.
Well,
Great.
Wonderful. It seems like this is really backfiring. The Columbia
On the protesters?
Columbia's choice to be so draconian and authoritarian with their protests immediately has sparked now at least half a dozen other campuses across the country to set up similar kinds of encampments. And there was much more a police presence in the New York instance because unlike Columbia, which is on private property, NYU is a university that's obviously embedded in the streets of New York. And so the university president there was able to call the police on these protesters, which is, I think, why it was so important for so many of the adult faculty members to come out and show such strong solidarity with them and for the safety of their students.
And not just the faculty members, by the way. When we're talking specifically about Columbia University, as we put up yesterday, there was reporting in The Intercept, the dozens of law professors from Columbia Law, one of the most respected law schools in all of the country, came out and said, we cannot continue to teach our students the rule of law when it is abjectly not applying to them even on our campus. They were like, we all have a different understanding of this political issue, but we all have the same understanding of the law because it's written in stone. You cannot just brazenly pluck children and students that have a right to be on campus off of it with fucking police. It was a huge disregard for their rights, both as fucking students and citizens. And when you have dozens of bipartisan law professors from one of the most elite establishment colleges in America, an Ivy League fucking university, yeah, you know you stepped in shit and you violated some people's rights.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, I want to ask Robby, what is the proper way to effectively protest anything? Because every time it comes up, this guy has some issue with people's version of protesting. When it was people blocking roadways, that was a huge issue. I remember we reacted to the debate where they talked about that. When it's forming an encampment on your college campus to protest the fact that your money that you paid to go there is supporting a genocide. Nope, that's not good. That's too disruptive. I mean, aren't libertarians supposed to be the don't tread on me crowd? Isn't that their whole fucking ethos? Isn't, resisting the establishment and the military? Isn't that their whole fucking shtick?
Private property, and he's going to fall back on. They were on Columbia's private property. You can do whatever you want on your private property. They owned it. That's their private property.
Yeah, just crazy. You'd think that a true libertarian, even if they didn't agree necessarily with the protest, would at least vibe with the energy, right? At least they'd be like, hey, a lot of college kids are just too busy, looking at TikTok or whatever the fuck,
Watching
at least these ones are
pornography.
Watching pornography. At least these ones are out there, expressing themselves. They're passionate. They're plugged in politically. Sure, I might not agree with them on everything, but yeah, if more American citizens displayed this sort of attention to what their government is doing, then we'd be in a lot better place. Like, how is that not the obvious fucking response? Come on, man. Especially when there hasn't been a single legitimate piece of evidence suggesting that really any of these protesters have been violent or anti-Semitic. It seems like fucking pearl clutching. But let's keep watching, because this does get pretty spicy here.
And the heads of these other universities resign. Whatever they're doing, they're not appeasing. They're not making pro-Israel people happy with their actions. They think not nearly enough action is being. So it's just
Why the would they want to do that?
I think that's right. I think that if university professors were ethical, first and foremost, but also if they were smart, they would realize that people like Elise Stefanik are not good faith actors. There's nothing you can say to please them. And trying to, undermine the credibility of a really powerful argument being made by your students and undermine their rights to assemble and to do exactly the kind of thing that you're supposed to do at college, which is to learn in class and apply the lessons that you're learning in the very classes that you're taking. The hypocrisy of the university to allow people to major in things like the valedictorian at Berkeley who wasn't allowed to give her speech, to major in the history of colonialism, and to major in take classes that are about applying these kind of movement lessons, and then punishing students for doing exactly that is ridiculous.
Yeah, conservatives would say that's,
what conservatives
having those classes.
Let's go back to talking about what conservatives are saying. Conservatives are saying we should send in the National Guard to round up students. They are endorsing these police attacks. Bari Weiss' statement that you read a little while ago seem dramatically in conflict with previous stances that she's had on free speech. Of course, this isn't inconsistent with her actual behavior of hypocrisy, trying to shut down protests and get professors canceled when she in fact is a student herself.
Not so good is going on at the protests, because both Cori Bush and Ilhan Omar have taken to Twitter to say that all the bad stuff you're seeing is not the students, but is outside activists among their midst, which for all I know is true. I don't reject that at all. I've spent time at protest movements. I've covered activism on college campuses. And yes, I often feel like there's just this group of permanent activist people who show up and make tents and cause trouble. But that's beside.
He's talking about the activists, though. That's what's hilarious about Robby. He immediately appropriates the bad faith actor thing, and he was like, "Oh yeah, just those like blue-haired liberals. All they want to do is camp out on there. They're always there. I hear you. Those people don't care about Palestine. They just care about being woke." Like, no, dude, that wasn't the point that she was making. And also, it's not a concession that they're like, "Oh, they're acknowledging that bad shit's happening." Yeah, dude, did you watch the videos of the mass arrests? That's bad shit happening. Okay, did you see? Like, yeah, there are people that like sometimes, dude. Let me just be real, right? Like I'm not like so many people are way closer to this issue than me, right? As with basically every issue that I've ever been at a protest at. I'm a fucking white guy from Kansas City, okay? Life, circumstantially didn't whack me that hard. But so when I'm there, I'm like, I'm not ever as close to it as like some of the people who are like, this impacts them like for real every single day. Maybe they have a cousin that's in, Gaza or something. You know what I'm saying? Or, during the Black Lives Matter rally, like I'm obviously not a black person and I don't experience that reality in America, right? But you get filled with rage anyway, man. You get pissed off and, and especially when you watch them get like super brazen and you watch them like push people around and bully them, you're like, you, dude. Like, I want to, we have the people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just get this insane sensation where all you want to do is just go in like hand-to-hand combat with these, right? And that happens to good people who really are down with the cause, people who are, and you have to resist that. That's one of the things they'll tell you because it doesn't make the movement look good at all, right? But I don't think a ton of that's even happening. Like, what's the worst that we've seen? We've seen the cops in full riot gear, like fucking trying to bombard students. We saw one get whacked with an empty water jug. Like,
yeah, that one guy was getting bonked on the head. That vicious violence. How could you forget it, Zach? We just reacted yesterday.
Other than that, I haven't seen any crazy violent actions from the students. I've seen the police go in there and instigate and grab people and force them to, and move them around and manhandle them. That pisses off the group. You know what I mean? But other than that, I've just seen textbook response to protest by police, which is never good. And, textbook response to protest from college campuses, which is a lot better than you would expect, given the fact that if they behaved as badly as the police, there would have been dead kids everywhere.
Yep. And it's also like, isn't this level of anger warranted? Like, I mean, if it was the fucking, World War II and the university was somehow intertwined with like Nazi Germany and was like,
flip it on its head, use that one against him, Gavin.
Yeah, I mean, it's for real though. Like, wouldn't that
I'm not
be
joking? That's a great point.
Yeah, like everyone agrees in retrospect that, yeah, that was absolutely worth protesting. And the people who didn't protest it, people that just kind of stayed silent and were like, yeah, whatever, Nazi Germany is doing Nazi Germany things. And I guess we're complicit. Who really cares? Like, history doesn't look back kindly on those people. Everyone says, like, how did, so many innocent people just let this happen? How come everyone didn't stand up and say, no, enough is enough? We're not going to allow this, ethnic cleansing to take place. We're going to stand up for our Jewish brothers and sisters. Well, that's what's happening now with these fucking college kids. They're saying, no, we're not just going to keep going to class while our university supports genocide. No, that's not going to happen. We're going to make a fucking stink about it, and we're going to, cause an actual stir. And that's what they did. I just that's the point of protesting. It's not just to go out in a field somewhere where no one can see you and wave a sign around so that no one can read it. Like, that's not effective. What they're doing, even if it doesn't actually, end the war in Gaza, at least it's something. At least it is getting people's attention. And that just seems to be the obvious point of protest, especially when no one's actually being hurt and seemingly all the actual violence is coming from the police. As usual, in peaceful protests, the cops show up, instigate a bunch of violence, and then blame it on the protesters.
Stuff going on if they're taking to Twitter to now condemn the protests and say, well, that's not really the students, that's the other stuff going on.
I think what's really important and wonderful is how easily people who are fighting for the rights of Palestinians in good faith are able and willing and excited to condemn any hatefulness or anti-Semitism. Why wouldn't you? The people who you're linked arms in arms with at this protest are overrepresented by Jewish students. Why wouldn't I or any person at these protests be incredibly quick? That is not something to condemn. That's evidence of how inclusive and loving and inspirational, frankly, these protests are. The frontline story should be that there was a interfaith Shabbat dinner that and prayer session. That's the event. That's one of the events that these professors were protecting at NYU. And outside agitators, people in Columbia, it was much easier to see because it's a private institution. People who didn't have access to the university, including Shai Davidai, the professor you mentioned, who's under investigation for doxing and attacking students. That's why his key card isn't working anymore.
Oh, so he should be arrested and hauled away.
He wasn't arrested and hauled away. What are you talking about?
Doesn't he have a free speech right to be on the campus as well and to protest and to engage in?
She just said it's a private university. That's why we don't. She literally just said, see, that's why it's a private university. That's why he's not allowed there anymore. Whereas NYU, it is public and you can go there. Robby, it's just so intentionally obtuse. It's ridiculous.
Right to be on the campus as well and to protest and to engage in?
His card was deactivated because he was harassing students and he's under investigation.
Okay, he's harassing students, but the protesters there who they're trying to deal with,
they're not students.
Yeah,
oh my God, the students. He's faculty. So the people that are making money to go teach there should be held to a different standard than the students. So that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Yes, that's what we're saying.
Team member who has an obligation not to dox and harass students.
You found someone involved in these protests who is worthy of discipline. I'm amazed by it.
He's such a dickhead.
I think we're going to be talking about this.
What a condescending asshole.
From the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression coming up next.
Robby, answer this question. Do you think the National Guard should be sent in to round up these students per Tom Cotton and a number of conservatives? I'm so glad that you have found somebody you're willing to condemn in the context of
I have no problem.
All right, more rising coming up after this.
Ooh, she's done for the day. Yeah, I was like, damn. Look, I get it. Debates are contentious, but he had no argument, and all he did was get petty. And I could bad look for Robby. Bad look for Robby. I don't know how she puts up with it. The pay must be really good. The pay must be really good because Briahna could go get a bag somewhere else doing something.
Yeah, it must be decent pay. For me, the biggest issue would be waking up that early. I
would
can't
never do it.
I know.
No money in the world is worth that to me. I'm just like, sorry.
You have to have your radar ready by 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. Like, fuck that shit.
Oh, dude, I guarantee they make her wake up at like 5 in the morning.
Oh, yeah, probably. Jesus Christ.
She probably goes for a run after work too. I'm just like, I don't know what it's like to live like that. I'm a Midwesterner. We're not built like that. We don't have that coastal drive.